No, like her wheelchair had like fallen off the curb, like off the sidewalk.
She was doing the one-wheel peel.
She was doing a one-wheel peel, like trying to get somewhere. I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my God. So this kid hops out. I was about to get out.
Yeah.
And this kid hops out. I was like, okay, he's got it. Like, he's looking after her. Then all of a sudden he turns around, walks back in the car, and they drive off. At the time, I was like, I can't wait to be an adult. I can't wait to have, work and make my own money, pay for my own things. Mom and Dad's like, oh, really?
That not a lot of people do, but you really need to do is open the door for your woman when getting into a car.
Man.
You want to feel like a boss?
Man.
And I love my girlfriend for this. Every time, the smile on her face, every time I do such a little thing as open the door, oh my, I'm like, man, okay, come on now.
I called my doctor today. They don't answer the phone after 12.
What? 12 p.m.?
Yeah.
Who the hell runs a doctor's office?
Monday to Thursday.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, beautiful souls, beautiful people. We are here, change of scenery, in the humble abode of Austin, Sean, and Lex. Special guest with us today, Zachary.
Welcome. I feel very pleased, very happy, very excited.
Very cozy, right?
Finally, this is good. This is comfortable. This feels right.
This feels good.
We'll kick them out of the house every time we have to record. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sean, Lex, sorry, get out. No, in all honesty, that was kind of very coincidentally planned, but turned out quite good. I like the way this is set up, and I'm excited to talk about...
Only minor adjustments in the...
If Lex comes to the door right now, all the hard work that she put into arranging this living room right now is just going to go out the door. Sorry, Lex.
Sorry.
Anyway, we are here today to talk about... I had a little, what's the word, epiphany?
Yeah, I would say. You came to me out of the blue.
It was just randomly, and it was because of the way that I've been approaching... How do I put this properly? The way I've been approaching my attitude towards life and towards my interaction with other people, I've realized that a lot of years passed, and this is, hindsight's 2020, but I wasn't interacting as positively as I could with other people, and I was kind of walking through life very selfish in mind, not really thinking about what other people are going through, not really thinking about what somebody else could be dealing with, or even thinking about how could I, as a human that is a part of society, help make somebody else's day just a little bit better without going out of my way to really do anything. Just being a good person in society as a whole. And that idea kind of came to me this week, and I was like, idea for podcast, because like you told me, like if you don't write it down or say it or shoot it off, you have to. And honestly, to be truthful with you, since you said that, like your best ideas just come to you subconsciously, like it just pops into your head. But that's why you gotta
write it down.
Write that stuff down.
I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure people on home are going to wonder the same thing: is how do you go about making someone's day without going out of your way to make someone's day? Because think about it though for a second, because for a lot of people it seems almost like a chore to
it is
go out and be like, hey, I feel like I need to make somebody's day, and they go out with the intent. But if you can find a way to balance and not go out of your way in a sense,
yes.
How would you go about that personally?
Well, the biggest example that I like to use, or the biggest example that I see as a receptor of it, because I mean, just as much as I go out and try and make humanity's life that doesn't get to interact with me, that I interact with, I try and make their day a little bit better. Being just a part of society as everybody else is, I, quite frankly, never receive that, ever. Like, ever. When I'm out in public, like, say, for example, go to the gas station or something like that, and, holding the door for somebody.
Yeah.
Like
easy.
I guess I should have led with, it's a very broad topic, but we're going to dive into it, because looking at it at face value, yes, it is it's a lot to think about, because you're like, how can I make the people around me's days better without going out of my way and like interrupting what I might be doing? Because like everybody has a busy schedule, and I'm not saying you should drop your responsibilities and go out and be like Superman for humanity's sake. Basically what I'm getting at in the nitty-gritty, day-to-day, nonchalant, subconscious, don't even realize what you're doing type of thing that makes a difference is just being personable, sociable, and positive towards everybody makes a huge difference. It made a huge difference Sorry, it makes a huge difference to me when people act like that. You know, like I said, you go to the gas station, hold the door for somebody. Oh, thank you very much, young man. Like, I really appreciate that. Oh, anytime, sir. No worries at all. It's like, you know, stuff like that. Or like, for example, just 2 weeks ago, just up the road here, I went to Subway after the gym because I was too lazy to go home and cook anything. So I was like, you know what? I'm craving Subway. I'm going to go get a sub. And I was probably standing in line up here. Oh, poor girl. She was the only one working there. There was like probably 10 people in line.
What time?
Like 9 o'clock. It was late, man.
On a Tuesday or Wednesday?
It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, bro. I was like, man, this is nuts. Like, I had half of mine be like, hey,
the one down the road.
Yeah, man, just up here by liquor store.
Is everybody else in a Subway mood?
Apparently, but you know, I was in no rush. Like, I absolutely in no rush, especially seeing that.
What a wonderful feeling that is, by the way.
Not being in a rush. That's another thing. That's another thing that a lot of people can realize, that when you put time limits on yourself and you start rushing, you start getting irritable and you start getting rash to people, and these are all compounded issues. But the example that I was getting at, when I was in Subway, I had probably waited a good 20 minutes.
Good for you in line.
Like, just standing in line waiting for my order. Like, I thought to myself, like, I could have just went to A&W and would have ate my food by now, but I wanted Subway. And there was some young, I wouldn't even say, if they were teenagers, they were just teenagers. Like, they had like
13, 14.
like 12, 13, 14 years old, like 2 boys. And they were loud, but they weren't being disrespectful. They weren't cursing. They weren't
them, no parents?
Just them, no parents. They were just 2 boys fooling around like it's summer break, whatever. Yeah. I used to do the exact same thing. I'm not going to go into it, but anyway.
We'll leave it there.
So I waited about 25 minutes in line. But they were the first in line. So they had already, by the time I got up to about to pay for my food, they had already sat down, ate their food, thrown their garbage out, like done all that stuff. And I heard they were talking to each other. And the kid said, man, I really want, because more people kept coming in. So there was a line of like 7 people behind me. And the kid was like, oh, I really wish I would have got a bag of Sun Chips. Like, but I don't want to stand in this line.
No.
So I heard...
That's funny, too, because you do have to stand in that line. That's the one thing that sucks, is if you want a cookie, if you want a little tiny something, you got to wait for everybody. You got to
wait your turn.
Yeah, you do.
So, of course, I'm standing at the cash, and he's just saying, oh, I just want a bag of Sun Chips. I have no idea who this kid is. No idea who his parents are. I just turn around and I say, hey, bud, what kind of chips you want? He goes, those bag of red Sun Chips. I said, go grab them, throw them up on the counter. Like,
easy peasy.
Like, easy peasy. Like, if you want a bag of chips, then I'll get... He's go, oh, I can give you money. I'm like, don't worry about it. Yeah. Like, if you, like, just grab the bag of chips, like, I'll pay them for you. I'm standing here, like, I waited in line, like, you know. But when I think of interactions like that kid was very grateful. He was like, oh, my God, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate that. Like, not making me sit and wait in line, and, you know, you didn't have to pay for it. I have, like, change in my pocket. I was like, no, dude, like, that's not the point. Like, I do it because, one, it makes me feel good to know that you're helping somebody. And it's the most mundane. He could have went the rest of his life without that bag of Sun Chips, but
I forgot it tomorrow morning.
He probably would have forgot about it. He probably would have forgot about it by the time he got 100 yards down the road, or he would have just walked over to Irving, you know what I mean? But I think back to times when I was his age, which in reality really wasn't that long ago, but it's 10 years ago. And when you're only 22, 23 years old, that's almost half your life. So that seems like quite a big deal of time to us. And I remember so often, like I remember there was a couple times, especially when I was hanging out just like him, out, parents, just out with your boys. Fooling around, you know, on the pedal bikes or whatever, driving around Sheet Harbor, and you're counting change. And you got like a couple bags of chips, you got a couple of cans of pop up there. And you're like, oh, damn. And you're like, oh, no, I'm short like $1.50 or whatever. And like, you feel so embarrassed, but next thing you know, guy behind you, hey, bud, what do you need? Yeah. Throws a toonie up on the counter. Feeling. I've never forgotten those. I'm not going to go into detail about all my memories, but all those little times that people could have easily just said nothing. Yeah. But they decided, you know what, I'm standing here, I can make this better, I'm going to do it.
It's a good story.
And I never forget those times as a kid. And most kids don't ever do that. Like, you ever see videos of when dad takes a kid to like a racetrack or something like that? Or the dad's walking out of the gas station and they see a supercar at the pump or like a really nice car.
Come get in the car.
And they're like, Dad, look at the car. And he goes, no, buddy, don't go over there. Don't touch. Like, that's really expensive. It's not your property. Yeah. Like, don't. And every single time, it's usually people who have YouTube and they're an influencer, but they're all the time, they're like, hey, bud, come over here. And then the dad and the son comes over, or the mom and the son, or whoever it may be. It could be a daughter, you know, whatever. I'm just talking about the videos that I've seen. And they're like, hey, do you want to get in it?
Yeah.
Especially with the street bikes. The kids love
when
the
they
street.
love
And they come up,
revving
they're like, hey,
street
come on, do you want to rev it? They're like, really? And the dad's like, are you sure you want to do that? He goes, man, I was that kid once too.
That's what I was just going to say.
And that's when I had my Civic, when I had the full exhaust, like everything was tuned up on it, like primal condition, just before I got in the accident. I don't know how many times I'd be rolling around. Like the last time I remember, I pulled at a Costco for my lunch break. Went up to grab a slice of pizza. And there was 2 kids. They were on their lunch break from, what's the French school on John Savage? Used to be Newbridge Academy.
Oh, that new one.
Yeah, it's the Acadian. It's part of the Acadian school board.
I don't know what school it is.
But kids come out of there all the time. They go to Dartmouth Crossing for lunch.
Of course.
And there was like, they probably were like 13, 14. And I was just pulling out of it, and I had a red light, but I was turning right, so I was just waiting for my time to go. And I had my windows down, and the kids were over standing at the intersection waiting to cross the road. And they're like, rev it, rev it. I was like, nah, I'll do you one better.
What'd you do?
I pulled out. First gear. What? Oh yeah, I burned the tires right up the road. But I looked in the rear view and they were going, yeah.
It's a good feeling, man.
And man,
well, because you were once that kid.
I was once that kid. Seeing these, it's just a boosted Civic, but seeing these awesome, to me in my mind, these crazy looking cars going down the road, or like and I would always be like, oh, I wish, like, rev it. Nobody would ever rev it. But the odd time that somebody would actually come onto the car, or like, when you're a kid, you see the big rig, honk, honk.
Oh, yeah.
When they actually hit that.
Today, actually, when I was leaving.
Yeah.
I was leaving my house, he did the old honk, honk, but I was eating an apple, so I'm sitting there going up the hill, and I'm eating an apple. He goes like this. I'm like, brother, I can't honk. I'm eating an apple, and I'm driving, but I waved.
You reach up with your knee, honk, honk.
I did the old, hey. I waved at him. I knew what he was doing, but I couldn't.
I guess now that I started talking about this idea, it's not so much that you should be going out of your way to make somebody's day, but if the opportunity ever comes across your feet, don't miss it. Especially if it's something so mundane that you're never going to think about again. It means nothing to you, but it could mean absolutely everything to the other person.
And here's the thing, I guess one way we could spin is you never really know who's watching.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
This is another thing that happened to me just recently. I wish Lex was here because she could tell you the story a little bit better. But I don't know if I told you about this. We were coming home from one of Sean's baseball games.
Yeah.
And Lex was in front of me, and we were at the Portland Street intersection. We were going through to Baker Drive.
Sure.
And she was at the front of she was second in line and I was third. So I was just at that Y where you can...
Oh, you were on the Wendy's side.
Yes, I was on the Wendy's side. So I was at that Y where you can keep right and go up towards the circ or go straight through. And we were going to go straight
lane,
through.
by the way.
Dirty lane.
Yeah.
But we were going to go straight through. And I was sitting there just waiting for the light change. That's like a 1.5 minute long light. Terrible. And there was an elderly man with a motorized wheelchair. And I'm assuming it was his...
Crossing that intersection.
Well, no. I think he was coming from Wendy's. So he crossed where that veer goes to. And then he was on that little sidewalk just by where he was about to cross in front of our lane. And I'm assuming it was his wife, the woman that was with him. They were traveling together. It was like 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. It was dark.
Was she in one too?
She was in a wheelchair, but she was in a manual wheelchair.
And he was in a motor.
And he was in a motor wheelchair.
Oh my.
And she could not, I saw her just struggling to move around. Like her arms were not working, and like she was using her feet to push herself along the sidewalk. So I'm like, I looked over, I was like, what the hell? And then I saw one of the kids, I'm assuming it was a kid, he didn't look very old, jumped out of the back of a car, walked over to her.
How old was the kid?
I don't know, 15, 16. And I thought he was going to help her. Because she had, one wheel had fallen off.
You surprised me there for a sec.
Yeah.
So I thought it was the kid was going to jump out and save her. I was like, holy crap, are you serious?
No, like her wheelchair had like fallen off the curb, like off the sidewalk.
She was doing the one wheel peel.
She was doing a one wheel peel, like trying to get somewhere. I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my God. So this kid hops out. I was about to get out.
Yeah.
And this kid hops out. I was like, okay, he's got it. Like he's looking after her. Then all of a sudden he turns around, walks back in the car, and they drive off. And she's still sitting there stuck.
What did he do?
And the husband's just sitting there. He's stuck in his wheelchair. Can't
get out. Yeah.
Can't do nothing. So I'm sitting here, and it took me like maybe 2 seconds. I'm like, fuck that. Excuse me, but like that's literally what I said. I'm like, no, fuck that. And I put my four ways on, parked my car in the middle of the street, did not give a shit, and I hopped out. I was like, are you stuck? She goes, yes. pulled her out, walked her across. I'm like, where you guys heading? They're like, we're trying to get over to McDonald's. I'm like, you got to cross this road twice.
That's not an easy route,
oh my God. I'm like
playing a crossy road.
Right?
They got to go across a lot.
So I'm sitting here and like they had to have been like mid to late 80s. Like I'm assuming they were from, what is it, Parkland?
Yeah,
whatever the retirement home just up on Baker Drive is. But that's where I'm assuming they came from. And I was walking her, I was pushing her in the wheelchair. And she goes, oh, you don't have to do this, young man. Like, I would have been able to get it. I'm like, no. I give that up right now. Like, I saw you struggling. I'm here to help. Like, and she goes, well, can I buy you a coffee? I'm like, no, I don't need anything. I'm like, I'm just here to make sure you get across the road safe. And that was it. Like, I was talking to them, chatting about random things. But as I was standing there, like, my car literally still parked running in the middle of the road. I'm sitting here waiting for the light. I walk her all the way across, bring her into McDonald's. I said, well, where do you want to sit?
Still parked?
Still parked in the middle of the road.
Holy.
I left it there.
You're one brave soul. What else are you going to do?
What else am I going to do?
Where did Lex go at the time? Where was she?
She had to go through the intersection, so she just went right up the road and waited and watched my car for me. So meanwhile, I'm like, she goes, I have to repay you. I'm like, you don't have to repay me. Like, what else are young men out there for to not help other people when they can? And that's the way I explained it to her. And my grandmother would have whipped me senseless.
Oh, your grandmother killed you.
Like, I was raised better than that, than to watch somebody, especially an elder citizen, sit there and suffer, and me, able-bodied, knowing I can do something to help and not do it. That's a greater sin than anything.
Well, it's funny because I have that internal battle, and this is the issue with having a built car sometimes, is you get stranded. And I've been stranded times I don't want to be stranded at. But it paints the picture very well when you have encountered that opportunity where you've been stranded and everybody drives by you.
Yep.
There's many times where I'm on the side of the road. Actually, I went to Irving one day. This is actually after I just got done. I don't know if I told you this. I might have. Got done rebuilding my car. And this is when I had first initially got it back on the road and I was confident enough to drive it down the road. Very monumental moment. Shouldn't have been touching a motor. Touched the motor. Hey, it works fine. I mean, let's be honest for a second here. It works fine.
Hey.
Took it down the road. Montebello, nervous as crap.
I'm
thinking, dude, I'm scared. Do the brakes still work? And to keep in mind, to paint the picture, this hill is steep.
It's a steep hill.
Steep. I don't know if I got brakes. I got gears. So we got something.
You got something. You got a knee brake.
I'm just going down the hill and I'm keep pumping the brake just to make sure that I got brakes. I had brakes. It was no issue, but of course I was nervous.
Right.
And it being a fresh rebuild, and this is really the first drive, so I got down the hill. Everything was fine. Booked it to Irving because it had sat so long I needed gas.
Yeah.
If I was going to drive it anywhere. So I got to Irving. This was the whole issue because I didn't hook up my alternator. My alternator ground wasn't hooked up correctly.
Oh.
But I didn't know. I thought my battery was going bad because I had my battery light on in the dash.
Right.
So I got to Irving and it drove phenomenally. I'm talking, I was patting myself on the back. I was getting all excited. I said, whoa, I just built my first car. The car is driving great.
Yeah.
I put gas in the car. I'm thinking, oh, yeah. I'm tough stuff. I just built a motor from YouTube. Come on.
Top Z. Top Z.
Thank you very much. Go pay. Go to start the car.
Not a thing.
I was like, serious?
Really, bro?
So I said, like, shoot, what am I going to do? It didn't start. I said, Mom, can you come get me real quick? Can you bring my jumper cables down and jump the car? Doesn't my dumb self try to jump the car right at the pump? I was so flustered. The lady came on the PA.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting there, and the truck comes around, and he kind of parks forward. He pops the hood. I grab the cables, and I'm about to go put them on. Do not jump the car at the pump. I was like, oh, shoot, never mind.
That was a brain fart.
Yeah. So push the car back, jump the car. Car started, which was great. I'm like, okay, I'm not far from home. This isn't far from where I'm at. This is maybe 2 minutes up the road. I go to leave. Come into a little bit of boost, not much, but I was I wanted to get back home. I hear, boom. Go. I was like, what is this now? I mean, I literally had left. I had taken a right, and I literally got right past the rubber duck and bench or whatever automotive shop is there.
Bench, Shut out bench.
Don't I blow my intercooler pump?
Again.
Yep. It came right off. It wasn't tight.
This was a common issue.
And here, guess what also happened?
What?
I didn't have my coolant hose plugged in. So after I got my intercooler tight, I looked down below and like, why is it wet down there?
You're running air cool, bud.
Hey, listen, there was no
Flat
feeling
six
in that
Porsche,
bad boy.
baby.
Oh my goodness! Ended up getting it up the hill, but the moral of the story is I was stuck on the road for a bit because I was waiting, and people kept driving by and driving by and driving by and driving by, and it sucks when you're sitting there and everybody keeps driving by. And anytime there's someone on the road, if I have the opportunity to, I try my very best to stop.
Yes, man, absolutely.
Because I know exactly what it was like to be in that situation.
Man. And most people don't ever know. What we're talking about is kind of it's kind of a thing. Most people don't try and help other people in that situation until you've been there. But that's kind of the law of nature itself, isn't it? Like, you don't really advocate against it.
Why are we doing this? Because we've been there.
Quite literally, we've been through some stuff, and we're still working through some stuff.
Yeah,
and
man.
I'm checking if it's still recording. Yeah. Man, you're really paranoid about that.
Oh, it's just because we got a time limit, right? I don't know.
Oh shoot! Right, I forgot about that. 30 minutes at a time.
But yeah, being there is it changes you because you're like, I got to help somebody.
And that's more or less what I guess that's what I was trying to say. I just didn't really know how to put it into words yesterday. Was not so much that I do, for the people I care about, I go out of my way. Like, I'm not saying that I only care about certain people, but, the people that are in your close proximity, like, your immediate family, you're going to do a bit more. The people who really matter to you, obviously, I do anyway. I go out of my way if I can to make their day better, any chance I get. And at the same time, I do that because it's reciprocated back to me. Now, I wouldn't be offering that to people who didn't appreciate it, doing that extra mile.
Yeah.
But what I was really getting at was just any time that there is an opportunity that you can help out, that you can make somebody's day better, make their situation a little bit better, whatever it may be. Like you said, being stranded on the side of the road, waiting 30 minutes in line for a bag of chips, seeing an old lady trying to cross the road in a wheelchair, and you're like, no, I can't sit here and just watch her struggle.
Yep.
It's like all it took for me to help that woman across the road was like 5 minutes of my time. That's all it took.
But you'd be surprised, people can't spare 5 minutes.
Like, and when you walk around, when you're not in a rush, when you just know that sometimes you are in a rush, but if you, like I said, like, you can stop and appreciate things, you can stop and notice things. It's like when you're always
stop and smell the roses.
Stop and smell the roses, man. It's like there's a little bit more beauty in this world than everybody seems to admit. I would say, because we're also fixated
Can we
on...
argue the fact that it's because everyone believes to be in a rush?
Yes.
Would you say...
Everybody, my whole life, I was in a rush to grow up.
Yeah.
Like, and the whole time, I was like, I can't wait to be an adult. I can't wait to have, work and make my own money, pay for my own things. Mom and Dad's like, oh, really? You sure about that? It's not going to be as fun as you think it is. And I was like, no. Like, I'm tired of being a kid. And like, now I'm 22 years old. But, what I would give to go back and be 14 again just for a week.
I want to play some Black Ops 2.
Man, I could throw it on right now. I got Black Ops 2 on the Xbox, bro. But you know what I mean? It's like everybody's always in a rush to get that new job, in a rush to get the new car, in a rush to do this, in a rush to do that.
Which is fair, because I will argue the point that there's the theory is that if someone makes $1 million in 20 years and someone makes $1 million in a year, the guy that made it in a year is 20 times faster than the guy that made it in 20 years.
Or 20 times richer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there is the argument there that I do get what you're saying. I will argue the fact that you do and you don't. It's the balance.
Life is about balance. It's about balance about everything.
Sometimes. Because I will argue the fact that sometimes you don't need balance. You just got to push.
Well, yes, but that's circumstance depending. Yeah. But I guess life as a whole, like if we're speaking in general terms, like happiness and sadness, anger. Anger. What's the opposite to anger?
I don't even know if there would be an opposite to anger.
I think anger is its own emotion.
Happiness. But what is happiness? Perspective.
Now we're getting deep, bro.
Holy fuck.
Excuse me.
What's the topic again?
Helping others and how it greatly impacts your life. But at the same time, since we're sitting here talking about all the great things that can come from helping other people, like I will say, like when I did help that lady get across the street, I felt like amazing. When I was walking back to my car, I was like, you did something really good today. You did something good for humanity. Like, and not only, I think that this is where I was going with this when you said you never know who might be watching.
You don't.
This is kind of a two-parter because she didn't know that I would be watching. She didn't know that I would be at that intersection ready to jump out of my car and help her get across the street. I didn't know that there was going to be a bunch of people sitting in the intersection and sitting at McDonald's watching me do this and praising me as I walked through the door to do it.
Yeah, it's great, eh?
I don't care about the praise. And, you know, I think...
As much as it feels good.
As much as it feels good, I didn't do it for that.
No.
But it does feel good. But I will say this. The group of girls that came over to me and said, like, hey, I just want to say, like, you know, what you did was really commendable because we saw her struggling, but we were going to help, but you had already jumped out of your car and you were there to begin with, so we didn't...
That's a cop-out.
But she said that...
We saw you get out.
But she said, we watched you do it, and she said, we just want to let you know that we think that was really awesome and that you should be proud of yourself for doing that.
That's good.
And I said to myself, I am proud of myself, but not for that reason. I said, nobody else was out there helping her. I said, I'm not about to sit here and watch her struggle. So, like, it very easily could not have been me.
Yeah.
It very easily could have been you or anybody else that was sitting there watching. But I'm the one that got out. So I'm not proud that I did it for that. I'm proud that I have the courage to get up and do something that nobody else is willing to get up and do.
We need the right courage.
Courage is really though.
It's incredible.
It'll get you so far.
One thing I wanted to say too is if you ever want to feel good, like a slight thing that really sets the tonality for you single men that not a lot of people do, but you really need to do is open the door for your woman when getting into a car.
Man.
You want to feel like a boss?
Man.
And I love my girlfriend for this. Every time, the smile on her face, every time I do such a little thing as open the door, I'm like, man, okay, come on now.
Yes, sir. I feel like I'm way too loud for this mic.
No, it's great. Like, it's not the first time, it's every single time something as little as opening the door, the smile on her face, it's like, this is nice.
It is.
All I'm doing is opening the door.
All you're doing is opening the door. But I will say this, it's very, very nice that you have a girlfriend that appreciates that.
That's a different story, I guess. That's a different story.
Because I've done that before in the past, and I was like, what are you doing? I'm like, as a guy who's as confident as I am in myself as a person, confident in my beliefs and confident in the way that I should be treating you as a female, as a respected counterpart, you don't have to do any of that. So we're getting into a completely different topic talking about that. I got to stop myself because we're talking about the thing about helping other people, but I guess that's a good thing to remember too, because not everybody's going to be receptive of your help, and some people.
That's a very, very, very good point.
It just came to my mind right now because...
Well, remember when we were downtown, when we were recording? I have it on clip. Remember when I said there's a whole video of it, of when us just going up to people, and there was a few times and people were not receptive. Now, they might not have known I was talking to them. Random number?
902 number, but they're leaving a voicemail.
But now, obviously, there's the argument that a lot of the people that we were talking to didn't know we were talking to them, but no... It's a bit discouraging when people don't respond well to what you're saying or don't respond at all.
Right.
But don't let that stop you. But remember, when we were downtown, when I said to that lady, I said, you guys look great in color, and it was just completely ignored. Just keep walking by. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to want to hear what you have to say, but that's okay. It's a personal game.
It is. It's quite literally, but the nice thing is there's billions of people in this world, so if you don't, if it fails with one, just try again with another.
That one with women, too. There's plenty of fish in the sea, isn't there?
What?
Plenty of fish in the sea.
Oh, yeah. Quite literally.
Work with one, you better go to the next.
Oh, now we sound like we're not like that. Just saying.
No, we're not.
We're not like that.
I've been dating the same girl for 6 years. Almost 6 years.
6 years, bro?
6 years.
Damn, Jeevers.
It's been a phenomenal time.
You cannot leave me hanging live on camera. I was about to say.
Well, did you hear that lady? She said, we were talking to some ladies downtown. lady and a guy from Saskatchewan, and they said, "Oh, you need a sweet little girlfriend." What do they say to you? Remember those?
Oh my God! She goes, "You're such a respectful young man. Some pretty little girl needs to come around.
That's it.
Yeah, some pretty young
And then
girl."
she looked at me and she goes, "What about you?" I said, "I'm a married man."
I'm a married man.
I'm not having this conversation.
I was, but I don't even know what I said to her. I said, "Hey, I'm taking applications, but nobody's lining up at the door."
Goodness,
So,
man.
oh man, that was actually quite funny. That was probably the best interaction we had.
That was good.
That
right
day.
next to the girls' bathroom. Too.
I was waiting for a beaver tail, man.
Yeah, we're waiting for
Two beaver tails.
and it was the only place to stand.
I literally said that this is not a good place to stand. It's not a good look. And then she replied to me. She goes, "No, it's not at all, is it?" And she goes, and this was a woman standing next to the woman's bathroom. So,
And that's why I think that it's a perfect place to talk to ladies.
yeah, she said
like
it's the
that.
perfect place to talk to ladies. I'm like, oh my God, ma'am. Like, no. I don't think girls are very receptive of me standing outside their facility.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not, no.
One thing we could also talk about too, not with women especially, but with us going out downtown and actually speaking to people, you can tell when people are receptive or not.
YouTube ad?
This is a
cut,
free ad.
cut.
This is a free ad, man. But it's true though. When we go out, there's people that aren't really receptive to what we have to say.
Oh, I think I know who that is.
Who is it? Are we
If he's trying, no, he didn't leave a voicemail. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm trying to skip the YouTube ad. That's what I was trying to. Oh, didn't even get to it.
But the receptiveness to what we're saying. Some people aren't receptive.
Well, even what was
Remember the one first guy we asked? He said, "Do you have a dream?" And he goes, "No."
no, and just
In
walks
front of
away.
his girlfriend, okay, but I did talk to Brianna about this. She goes,
Man.
She said he might not be comfortable with sharing his dream, and I get it because a year ago I probably would have never been comfortable airing out my situation.
Fair.
However,
Doesn't mean it would have been a bad thing if you did.
come on, brother, speaking into existence, huh?
You know what I mean? You gotta think it to believe it.
Oh, little Conor McGregor.
Oh man,
That's a good example of it.
Oh, if you what did he say? I might have to pull that up on the thing here. If you have the power to think it and the courage to speak it, then it will be. Then it will happen, or something along those lines. Like, and that's the power of the word, though.
Yeah.
Like, and that's another thing that I've always been struggling with too. Is like using negative words towards myself. It's like a self-belittlement. Like, I'll be completely honest with you today. Like, before I walked into the gym, I was hating on myself. And I wouldn't say a word. I normally would. I'd be like, oh, a month or two, even a month ago, me would have been like, oh, you look skinny today. Like, oh, you've been slacking. Like, you weak little wimp, like, you know what I mean? I'd be using worse words, but I'm paraphrasing for the sake of the camera to keep it kind of PG. I already dropped a couple F-bombs, my apologies. I'm gonna have to add a little swear jar for me. That's what I'm gonna.
A swear jar would be pretty good.
The swear jar would be pretty good. I might actually do that. That's a good idea. But even like today, before I went in the gym, I was thinking to myself many times, like walking past mirrors or seeing my reflection in this, that, and the other thing. I'd be like, oh, like disgusted. Like disgusted with my own appearance. But before, I would always say something, especially when I'm in the gym. While I was working out, Tyler was a good one to kick. He kicked me out of this habit.
Verbally say something?
You're
telling me you'd just be sitting there and go, "F, my triceps look small."
Yes.
Out loud?
Yes.
For real?
I am very verbal with myself. I speak to myself all the time. All the time. I'm a verbal thinker. Like, I think out loud.
So you'd be doing like chest flies and say like this, "I'm getting a poopy pump."
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And that was me before. But like, and every now and again, it would be the complete opposite. It'd be like, man, I feel so good. Like, my pump looks awesome.
Yeah.
But now, I don't even, if it's nothing positive, then don't say it at all.
Hey, that's that famous word.
Shout out, Mom. Yeah. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. I remember you told me that when I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, because me and my sister would pick on each other all the time. Even though she deserved it sometimes. She started it. But regardless, had to get that out there.
Oh my goodness.
I gotta
feel
defend.
like that's an older sibling thing, and I can agree to the same thing. She started that, but most of the time it was me. I slapped the crap out of my sister many times. God love her.
Me too.
Remember when Vine was a thing?
Yes, I remember. We were literally just talking about that.
Slap challenge.
Oh my God.
I would whack the. I love my sister. I would whack the bow right off the side of her head. I caught her a few times. We were in the back of a car one day on the way back from Toronto. And I had sat there, and this is when we had the big iPads. The iPad mini, so it wasn't big, but it was a chunky boy.
Chunky boy.
And I'm sitting there, I mean, I'm 8, 9, I'm in the back of a Grand Caravan, hanging out on the passenger side, right behind, actually, my father, who was driving, perpendicular, I guess. Is perpendicular? I was on the other
Perpendicular
side.
is this. Parallel.
Yeah. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It was just my father driving, I was in the passenger seat behind the actual front seat, and my sister was sitting next to me. So kind of like this.
Yeah.
I get the bright idea to sit there and get a slow motion app on the iPad earlier in the day, and I said, I'm going to slap my sister.
This is premeditated.
It was schemed.
Oh, bro.
Schemed. Everything in life has got to be a plan. So I'm sitting there, and you can only imagine. Let's take this notebook, for instance. She's stunned.
Yeah.
God love her, she's stunned. I'm sitting here like this with the iPad, like she doesn't know, like camera facing her like this.
Couldn't be more obvious.
But I was like this, and right next to her. And she's not paying attention. I'm like, what is she doing? I hope she was watching a movie, because I can't really think about this. And I came across.
You didn't just straight up smack her face.
My dad gets, puts the brakes on, pulls her. What was that? I said, I just slapped Hannah. She's crying in the
straight up, just no warning, just
no,
pow.
Just
oh my God.
I wish I still had the video. We got deleted so long ago, but that video is still a joke in our family, because it was slow motion, but it was when slow motion was really bad.
Yeah.
So everything was overemphasized and exaggerated.
Yeah.
You could see the ripples in her face, and
no way.
And I'm sure you have a younger sister too.
Yeah.
Other people who have a younger sister, it was very over exaggerated.
Oh, she probably felt like the world was burning, dog.
I slapped the crap out of her, but it was like, this is the end of the world.
Right.
Yeah, it was bad. So it was such. I wish.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, Hannah, if you watch this, but that would have been absolutely comical.
She got whacked. My dad still wishes I had the video, and then I got her one time on Vine too. I got her with when people were doing the soap. You know, when people would put the hand shaving cream or something and smack each other? I got her one time too. You know who was there? You know Joey Hagen?
Yes, I know Joey Hagen, man. Jeez. I was at his wedding. I was at Joe's wedding.
Yeah.
That's funny. I guess that leads me into my next point. Since I kind of like the way this is going. We're kind of just diving off on other topics here. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that not only is it good for yourself and for literally doing good for other people has no... is there a downside? I can't think of one.
Doing good for other people?
Like taking every time an opportunity arises in front of you to do something good for somebody else, if you take that chance or you take that opportunity, there's nothing bad. It's going to make you feel good, and it's going to make them feel good.
I think the only thing that would go bad is the way that you perceive the... Because people get in their head, let's be honest for a second here, people are really in their head about how they performed in that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be the overthinkers that think that, that didn't go the way that I planned, even though that you might have not had the intention of helping somebody, but that's the outlier. So I would agree that, yes, there's probably nothing that can go wrong.
But that's also an internal thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, generally speaking, from a byproduct strict point of view, there is no bad byproduct of helping other people.
No.
And that's the way we all should aim to be. But there is a point where you can go too far. And that is what I said earlier when I said I will go out of my way to make other people's days better, or, you know, maybe lighten the burden of whatever it is that they might be carrying, whatever it is they might be going through. I will try and alleviate that burden and pain, especially for, you know, my close friends that I really care about. I would do anything to try and make their situation better. But there comes a time when I'm very guilty of it myself. I've done it in the past. I've done it very recently. You give too much of yourself out at once in efforts to help other people that you run yourself so dry that you can't even help yourself. And it's a very, I don't want to say fine line. It's not a fine line. I just want to say it goes from 0 to 100 very quickly. But you have to understand when that line comes, because it's different for everybody. Everybody has their own boundaries and what they're willing to put themselves through for the sake of somebody else. And now, mind you, there are some situations that, like, I'm not going to go into my situation, but it was...
Air it out there.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Out with it now.
Yeah, I get it out.
Jeez. But you can just know when enough is enough, is what I'm going to say, without going too much into mine, because you know, so, especially if it's someone you care about a lot.
But I feel like the only way you'll learn is by giving too much.
That's the only way I learned, because
that's the sucky thing about it.
It's a sucky thing about it, but the trick is to have enough courage to step away when that does happen. Or if you're smart enough, if you're brave enough, I know I wasn't, to step away before it gets to that point. And that's...
Well, then it's like a boxing match after the fact, because if you end up not stepping away with it, you're in a verbal altercation in your head saying, why did I not step out of that when I knew I should have?
Yep, and then it's the vice versa.
Like, you swear you're getting smacked by Mike Tyson.
I swear to God, man. Sorry, but when something like that happens, it feels like a uppercut from hell, man. And you weren't even expecting it. It's just BAM! Rocked. And it's like, you don't even know what planet you're on, what direction you need to step foot in, who you are, what, you know, you don't know nothing. You've been knocked silly. I feel like we're very dark here.
Yeah, you want to throw on, do you have a, what about that lamp in that corner? That'll work?
That should work.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's bright, isn't it?
What's that? Nah, it's a little too far away.
That'll do.
Oh, I got this one over here.
That'll do. Yeah.
A little bit better lighting. Soft lighting.
Serious.
If I really want to get serious.
That'll do.
There we go.
That'll be good.
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, it looks hella good. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir.
Watch your language, brother. This is no swearing podcast.
What did I say?
Hella good. I'm just fine.
I didn't even notice.
Me swearing to say it? Golly.
Oh, my apologies, brother. It's all right, brother.
But like you were saying, do not jump off the deep end.
I will say this. Do I regret doing it?
Probably.
Sacrificing a little bit of my own mental sanity for the sake of somebody else?
You're pausing here for like you're gonna say you're gonna regret it.
No, I'm not.
No, you're not gonna regret it.
Nope.
I thought you were pausing. There was a little bit of dramatic.
No, I just finished my beer. No, I'm not going to say it. But thinking back to my situation, I'm not going to go into it. But there was a time very recently where I had to choose where I could either, you know, completely save my own sanity for. There is no other way around this. It is a selfish reason, but at the same time, it's a good reason. You're protecting yourself. I chose to let myself get hurt for the sake of somebody else. Do I regret doing it? Not at all, because I know it was the right thing to do for that person. I know that in the grand scheme of things, what was the downside of it for me was nothing in comparison to what opposite party had gone through. And this is mostly with the time is what I'm speaking about. Usually you're trying to help somebody else out of a tough situation or out of whatever it is they might be going through. It's usually never good. Otherwise, what problem would you be trying to solve? So it only really comes into play when you're trying to help somebody else.
Hey.
What's up?
This is your moment to shine. This is the time to come in and say, it's either a boy or a girl. We don't know.
We don't know yet.
Don't know.
You still haven't gone to the doctor yet?
I cleaned the house all day, if you couldn't tell.
No, I definitely could tell. Same flying space rock.
I like it.
I'm just,
I like it.
You know what I mean, though? Like,
I like it.
People think way too far into things. It's, just look at it on a basic level. You're human, I'm human. I deal with things, you deal with things. Let's try and live our lives the best way we can for each other.
Individuality.
Always look out for your best interest, but that doesn't mean you have to destroy everybody else around you to get there.
See, everybody thinks they live in their own world.
That's the problem.
That's the thing, is that people think the world revolves around them.
Oh,
which I mean, I can understand to a certain extent, and I don't want to say I understand.
I can truthfully say I've never understood that. Really? I've never had that feeling ever. I've never been
everybody in your life.
I've never been
had that feeling.
I've never been that self-centered ever.
Okay, you've never had the feeling though that anybody or the certain person you met is coexisting in your life, but it's almost like you're in a video game. You've never had that thought. Like where you're almost what people say the main character of a game?
No.
You've never had that feeling?
No.
At all, once?
Ever.
Really, eh?
Even my parents say this, I've always been a selfless person. Ever since I was young. Everyone always told me I had an old soul. Because I don't put myself on a pedestal. And that allows me, that gives me the fuel to get up on that pedestal. Because I won't sit here and lie and say I haven't achieved everything that I've ever put my foot towards, and I haven't achieved it in great fashion. But to sit here and say that I feel like I'm better than other people, no, I've never felt that once. It's always been the opposite for me. I always felt less. I always felt like I was less than my peers, less than everybody else around me.
Never felt like the main character?
Never, ever.
Have any of you guys felt like the main character?
All the time.
Come on now.
Now, I will say the perspective of being the main character in your own life, 100%.
Right.
100%. But when I view myself out into the world of everybody else, when I put myself in the same group as 7 billion other people, I am absolutely not the main character. Because the way I view things myself is I don't consider myself in a lot of things. Because I know no matter what I do, I'm going to do things for the best of me anyway. So when I'm doing things, you know, in this sort of sense, I'm thinking about other people. And I've never had, maybe I should have had this little villain arc. Maybe I probably would have been in a better place.
Yeah, but
nowadays,
we've seen some people who've had the villain arc, and we've seen how that turned out.
But I will say this:
can we air out Hitler? Like, can we say that? Like,
why not?
I don't know.
It was a part of history.
He's banned from schools. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that.
Hitler's not though. That's an interesting take.
Huh?
Yeah. Have you ever thought about that? Andrew Tate was the first man in the UK to be banned from schools, to be spoken about in schools.
I remember that. It was like last year or something
Hitler's
like that,
not,
wasn't it? So you can talk about Hitler, but you can't talk about Andrew Tate. You can talk about...
Anyways, before we get off topic.
Wow.
Would you have a villain arc? Would you seriously sit down and say to yourself that...
Oh, I already had one.
Could you?
I already had one. I was just silent.
Being an empathetic person, though, could you?
I wasn't, but that's the thing. I wasn't. I wasn't an empathetic person. I was the opposite.
Well, I can see you being bad. I know you could be...
Listen, you didn't know me that well.
I only knew you from Destiny.
Literally, bro. Literally, back in grade 7, grade 8. But that time, that was the start of my villain arc. I had my villain arc in high school. It's very weird because I had to grow up when I turned 13. Like, when I was diagnosed, I had no choice. Well, I did, but I made the choice that, no, Mom put it to me this way. She said, this is happening whether you like it or not. When I was being diagnosed with diabetes, she said, you are going through with treatment whether you have any say in this matter. You do not. Whatever you think is going to happen is not going to happen. Said you're going to that hospital and you're getting the treatment.
It's almost like a false reality, it feels like.
Well,
when we moved from Ontario, it didn't feel real.
Really?
Like, I was ready to wake up and this be a prank. You know what I mean? Like on like an episode of Prank Wars.
Right, yeah.
But it's true. Did you not feel like that when you got diagnosed that this is...
A little bit. I was like, this isn't real. I'm like, nah, there's a slight chance it could be happening. And I was fighting Mom and Dad. I was fighting Mom and Dad the whole entire way. Like, nope, this isn't happening. No, I'm not diabetic. How can I be diabetic? I'm 110 pounds. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you guys are just talking to your ass. Like, you know, I'm just literally reiterating what I was saying. And I remember I was sitting in one of the exam rooms in the hospital in Shea Harbor, and I was about to take my first injection of insulin. And I was literally saying, I was in the room alone, and because I was so angry that they had to put me in a room alone. Like, I was savage mad, like incredibly angry. Like, I was ready to kill somebody. I was 13 years old, but I was...
you were fired up.
I was fired up. And I remember Mom came in, she goes, all right, now listen to what I have to say. And I was like, no, I don't want to listen to you. She said, no, you're listening to me right now. I said, this is the only thing I'm going to say to you from here on out.
Would your mom sit down? Would your mom sit down for a time?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely she would.
Seems like quite the rock.
Yeah, she's put up with a lot of shit from me.
Well, she also won't take a lot of stuff from you. Doesn't seem like.
No, she sat me down. She said, this is happening whether you like it or not. She said, you have two options. She said, you can either stand up on your own 2 feet and walk into that room like a man, or...
At 13.
At 13, she said, or You can sit there, kick, cry, and scream, beat your father, beat me. I do not care. I'm dragging you in there by your neck, and you're taking that shot. And she said, there is no option. They said, you're having the shot, and it's up to you how you get it. That's going to be your life from here on out. Just harsh reality. Like, this is it. Like, you can either get on board now, or you could kick and scream the whole way, but either way, it's happening. So you choose what way you want it to be delivered. I said, all right. Got up. Stood up, walked in. That was the end of it. That was the end of the kicking and screaming. That was it. The next day we woke up 5 o'clock in the morning, drove an IWK emergency, went through a whole day worth of treatment, all this other stuff, countless nurses, doctors, specialists coming in, seeing me, testing me this, drawing blood this, doing this, doing that. The whole entire time, not a peep, no complaints, no nothing. Mom's like, what the hell's going on with you? I said, you told me I could do this one of two ways. I said, I chose to be the man. I'm doing it my own.
Were you mad at the world at any point?
I was extremely mad at the world for like 8 years of my life. Pissed. Infuriated that I was the one that got to deal with this shit. Even though in hindsight, it could be a lot worse. Like, this is the way I was thinking. But it was a lot to deal with for 13 years old. And I kind of hate that I didn't use the support systems that I had around me to help it out. But this is hindsight. I was 13, pissed off, but I just had this chip on my shoulder. Like, I can do this. Like, I can do this myself.
You know what I was doing at 13? Worried about playing the game.
Yeah.
Worried about playing Call of Duty.
Well, that's what when the nurse came in and she was showing me the pens, the insulin pens on how to properly inject and like how to load the bop, how to change the cartridge, do this and that. And when she sat down, she was like, say you're across the table from me and I'm sitting here. You're the nurse. I'm mom. She comes down and sits like this facing mom. I'm like,
she ain't diabetic.
I'm like, she ain't the one. I'm like, she didn't get diagnosed.
She ain't
like,
diabetic.
I'm ready. She goes, yeah, but is your parents not? I'm like, no, give me the needle.
Really?
Like, give it to me. And you can go and ask my parents this. They were sitting there in the room with me. I'm like, no. Like, I literally said to them, I said, if this is going to be my life for the rest of my life, I better learn how to do it well now.
Yeah.
And I said, what's the hell the point sitting around waiting for somebody else to do it for me? They're not going to be around 7 years' time.
It's true.
This is the way I was thinking at 13 years old. Like, they're not going to be here forever. I need to learn how to do it myself and do it well. Like, I have the professionals here in front of me. I want to do it now. So, unfortunately, I've always been able to grasp concepts like this. Like, that was a lot to deal with for a 13-year-old, and I wasn't dealing with it properly, clearly, based on my past actions. But you know what I mean? Like, I had to mature very quickly at a young age, so I was able to understand how the world operated and, like, just how unfair and how cruel the world can be, even though it's not the worst thing in the world that can happen to me. It's not a very fun thing to go through and deal with every day and have absolutely nothing you've done or absolutely nothing you can do to ever change the fact that you have it. It's just a chronic autoimmune disease. And it's quite a lot to think about on your mental, but
hey,
what's life? You got to power through. You got to power through that shit. Oh.
Add a 20. Wait, what are you gonna add to?
Hey, do we got an empty mason jar?
For what?
Swear jar.
Swear jar. Every time he swears.
I can empty it.
Oh, I'm actually gonna have to put money in this thing now.
How
God.
much are you gonna put up every time you swear? See, the thing is though, if you make it a big amount,
I'm not gonna try and swear.
no, you're not. You're gonna have to say.
But if I do like a quarter,
yeah, it's like okay, well I can fork out a quarter. Make it $1,000. You won't swear, yeah.
$1,000, my
baby.
guy! Oh my goodness!
$100.
I know who was grabbing. I know who was grabbing the dips on the friggin' stock market this week.
No, we're not gonna talk about it. We're not gonna talk about it.
No, we're not.
I almost deleted my account.
No,
it just came back like 2 weeks later, but I didn't. I wasn't gonna open the Simple account, to be honest with you. Look at that.
Dang. How much should $1 I swear?
Do you think $1 is reasonable?
I think $1 is reasonable.
But that's gonna be
I don't really want to give up $1.
all right, fair enough. $1.
Listen, I understand the value of $1.
It's true.
Like, people think that just because like $5 isn't $5. Wait till you have no money and all you got is $5. That $5 feels like $1 million. Perspective. I remember being back like 17, 18 years old. I'd be like, man, all I got money is put in my gas tank. $20 is $20, bro.
It's true.
And if you think about money as in, if it's nothing.
$10 an hour, baby.
That's what I started working at.
Yeah, that's what I was.
That was my first job. $10 an hour was good money back then. Yeah, man. I was ecstatic, man.
I was something. I used to work for $4 back in the day.
Oh my God.
What used to tell me.
Well, what's minimum wage now? 15, 17?
What is minimum wage? Do you guys know what minimum wage is?
15.65 or something like that. Yeah, I started working for 10.
I was around that. I think it was 10 or 11. It was like 10.80.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, that when my first job, I was working like 14-hour days. So I was working for $10 an hour, and I was pulling in over $1,000 a week.
What were you doing? Were you at the factory?
Lobster pound.
Oh, is she Harbor?
Tanger.
Oh my.
Tanger lobster.
Well, diabetic.
Yeah, man.
Strong,
I was 15.
Strong.
I was, because I remember, because this is another thing that Dad told me. He goes, because I was asking him for a phone, because I didn't have a phone. I was like, Dad, can I get a phone? He goes, listen, bud. He goes, if you want a phone, you can go and pay for it yourself. Oh my God, you're gonna make me laugh. Get the. All right, well, thank you for tuning in for another episode. Bro, that's on the 55mm lens, man. I probably got something in my teeth, dog. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of this podcast. I feel my space is very violated right now. Go check out the mans. Go check out your mans. Thank you guys for tuning in again. Check in again next week for our next episode, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more of a structured plan. I forgot my notes at work, so thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.